I've got a few of my committee members here this morning from Freedom, and they're here, so thanks guys for being here, and my amazing parents, who, let me tell you, as I was 18 years old, I came home for Christmas after my first year of university, and I sat my parents down and I said, Mom, Dad, I'm gonna hang out with prostitutes. What do you think? And they're like, is that part of your university education? Are we really paying for you to go and hang out with prostitutes? And I said to them, if I don't go, I don't know who's going to go. So I look around and I don't see anybody helping these girls. And further into my journey and further into the story, I started to learn that prostitute, which we equate so much with choice, is so misused. And the proper term to be using is prostituted. And then you are introduced to this dark world called human trafficking. And you're told that there's 27 million people in slavery today. 27 million people in slavery. The current population of Canada is 34 million people. So you take our nation, just for 1 minute, and think our entire nation is in some form of slavery. And 80% are women and children, 70% are trafficked for the purpose of sexual exploitation. One of the most amazing things, I will say certain things about living in Canada, like it being minus 42, that I can't stand at all, and I complained about it all winter long. I started complaining about 3 weeks ago and got sick. But one of the most amazing things, Canadians, being in Canada and traveling abroad, if I were to go around the room and say, what is it about being Canadian that you are proud of? It's our freedom. We are one of the most free nations on the planet. And you heard this morning about one of the most enslaved countries in our world. The Congo is one of the only countries in the world that will not comply with the UN around human trafficking. And so this morning could not have been more fit for what we do as an organization called Freedom, to raise awareness about human trafficking and what is going on globally and locally. This isn't a problem that's just exclusive to the Congo, or India, or Thailand, or Tibet. This happens right here in our own community, right here in Oakville. There's a case last year, police arrested in Halton, Peel's amongst the worst in Ontario, Niagara and our borders, and I can go on and on and on, and they've given me 5 minutes, which is probably down to 3 now, so I'm not going to take too much longer. But I'm proud to say we do a lot of work in our community here in Halton, and I speak all over in Toronto, and we do different events. And part of my heartbeat behind what we do is going into high schools and raising up our next generation. I love when I look around here. I didn't know what to expect this morning, to be honest, in terms of people. And I love that there's youth. There's a whole table of youth sitting there at table 8. Like that is, you're just a generation that is waiting to rise up and make positive change. Organizations like Free the Children and Meet We, who really see that youth, if you tell them they can spread their wings and fly, now they will do it. They're told so much. When you're older, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? Part of what we go in and do is say now. You can do it now. You can be 14 years old. You got a girl here who's 16 and founded an organization. That's where the brothers started with Me to We. They didn't know what they're doing, but they knew they needed to make change. And that's what it starts with. And I say all the time to our committee, all the time, that never doubt that a small group of thoughtful and committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. One of the questions I get all the time when I go into these high schools is, well, what did you go to school for? How are you doing what you're doing? And how can I do it? And really, there's no trick behind it. I didn't go to school to start an organization. I didn't go to school for public speaking. I didn't go to school for all of these running qualifications that you think you would need, except just doing it. It was one idea and being committed to that thought. And I've got a fantastic group of people that support and are behind us. And I'm proud to say, I'm not going to turn this into a political event, but right here in our community, fighting human trafficking, it is so hard, guys, to get politicians on board with this issue. We're fighting in our government of Canada to see laws amended. We did it last year for the first time in a long time in Canadian history to amend criminal codes to protect our women and children and young boys against trafficking. Proud to say that from Parliament. But here in Oakville, and here this morning, MPP Kevin Flynn, your town councillor for Ward 3, Dave Gidding, and I did not see him this morning, but MP Terrence Young as well, who are 3 men in our community who, when I've called and said, hey Kevin, we need your support. Dave, we're doing an event. We've got high school students that are celebrating their birthdays for human trafficking to raise money for victims. Would you come out, show up? Terrence Young spoke about Free Them in the House of Commons at the beginning of October. And we, right here in this community, are making active positive change to fight slavery and to see peace and freedom, which go so hand in hand, totally reign here in our community. And so I'm excited to hear that you're going around today. We've got some of our volunteers that are going to be going to the high schools as well, to not only hear Michelle speak, but then to allow them to get plugged in so that youth can be the doers of change, and they can do that now. And I'll leave you with one parting quote, again, very fitting, coming from the continent of Africa, a fantastic, inspirational man that many of us know by the name of Nelson Mandela. Political leader, and in many ways, the freedom, peace mover and shaker of history, really, in my opinion. When you think of Nelson Mandela, you do think of peace and you think of freedom. And here was a man who stood up for justice and was put in slavery, in prison, for 27 years because of what he was fighting for his nation. And he says that to be free is not merely just to knock off one's chains, but to live in a way that enhances the freedom of others. And when we're doing that, we're changing the world. I always say when you've changed one person's life, you've changed the world, because you've changed their world. You hear of one story this morning that is so powerful, and there's 300,000 other stories out there just like Michelle's. And this is just around child war soldiers. You've got bondage labor, you've got sex trafficking, you've got so many different forms of slavery. And when you've walked into their life and you've changed their world, you've changed the world. So how many of you know that when your world isn't going great and when things are going bad, nothing else matters? Nothing else matters. And when somebody comes into your life and gives you that joy and gives you freedom, it's the most powerful thing on the planet. So as adults, as youth, I love seeing you guys here, seriously. It's amazing. And you guys are awesome. And whatever dream you have, let's speak to the youth for a second. You don't need to wait till you're my age or older. You can be 16. I don't know how old you are, but you look like you're 7 or 8 years old behind you. I don't know how old you guys are, but you can do it now. And you don't need a massive idea. You need one idea and start small and stay committed to it. And one day, I'd love to see all of you guys up here accepting the same award, because you're it, guys. You're the next generation to continue going. So I'm going to say that. Thank you so much for having me, and it's an honor to be here.